Arpi Avetisyan, Senior Litigation Officer at ILGA-Europe, presenting on behalf of ILGA-Europe, Human Rights Education and Monitoring Center, and the Women's Initiative Support Group, WISG, in Georgia. The case of Identoba and others versus Georgia concerns homophobic attacks against lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and intersex activists that took place during a march in May 2012 to mark the International Day Against Homophobia and Transphobia. The court found violation of Article 3 due to failure of the Georgian authorities to provide adequate protection against inhuman and degrading treatment inflicted by the counter-demonstrators. The court also found procedural violations of Article 3 together with Article 14, as the authorities fell short to establish a possible discriminatory motive and identify those responsible for committing the homophobic violence. In addition, the court held that the authorities had breached their obligation to ensure that the march could take place peacefully by failing to sufficiently contain homophobic and violent counter-demonstrators. This was in violation of Article 11, together with Article 14. In the aftermath of the judgment, the government of Georgia made significant steps in fighting against hate crime in Georgia. However, addressing hate crimes requires comprehensive work of countering discrimination more widely. It is a matter of concern that successive human rights action plans have failed to address sexual orientation and gender identity discrimination adequately. The current action plan for 2018-2012 was approved on 17th of April 2018. However, until February 2020, the National Action Plan did not address the rights of LGBTI people at all. And as it was adopted on 17th of February 2020, this year, the delay of nearly 2 years in carrying out the National Action Plan indicates that there exist risks that it cannot be implemented duly and timely. The Ministry of Internal Affairs has created the Human Rights Protection and Investigation Quality Monitoring Department. This department monitors investigations of hate crimes, amongst other things. Establishment of the new department is to be welcomed. However, it should be noted that the department has a different remit than the unit proposed by UPR and the Committee of Ministers. This is a centralized coordinating body tasked to determine concerns that it may not be able to address adequately due to consideration to problems at the local level, nor, for example, addressing specific issues arising in the investigatory process. The European Commission on Racism and Intolerance has voiced their concerns as well, that such a department is not a substitute for a specialized investigative unit within the police, as it had recommended itself. So the new department was created to review hate crime investigations, not to carry them out. It therefore does not constitute a dedicated reinforcement of hate crime investigation capacity at law enforcement level. In general, the consideration of bias motive has increased in relation to the previous years. Under the 2019 statistics from last year, criminal prosecution has been launched in 32 homo-transphobic hate crime cases. However, it is concerning that within the existing structures, the victims usually refrain from reporting to law enforcement because of the fear of forcible outing and re-victimization that affects the real number of concerned victims. This also results in a gap between the official and NGO statistics. While the victims of hate crimes can access the Office of Protecting Witness and Victim within the prosecutor's office, and the Ministry of Internal Affairs, the system, which offers the victims services available at different state agencies and civil society organizations. There is a shortcoming that the state itself does not offer relevant services for the victims of hate crime, but is seeking those services outside the system, and mainly by approaching civil society organizations. Because of the limited capacity of services by NGOs, it is crucial that the state provides such guarantees as part of the fight against hate crime itself. LGBTI survivors have emotional, material, and social needs after experiencing hate crime. The statistics on the screen shows the limited access to the services despite the needs of hate crime survivors. Thus, it's important that the state does not limit itself to the reaction of such crimes, but also provides special services, tailored services to the victims. The enjoyment of the right to freedom of assembly and manifestation still remains a challenge for LGBTI groups, despite the fact that Georgian legislation fully guarantees the right without discrimination to any persons. After the grave experience of 2013, similar to the incidents in the Identoba case in 2012, LGBTI activists and their supporters were not able to hold public demonstrations in the capital's main streets without special protection from the police. I would like to share two recent examples as an illustration of this. During the series of events that took place during the screening of the film And Then We Danced, which was labeled as an LGBTQI movie in November last year in Tbilisi, far-right groups held a rally to disrupt the premiere and endanger the physical integrity of the visitors of the theater. Law enforcement authority failed to provide proper protection during the premiere evening in order to prevent the extensive stream of the violent groups to occupy the surrounding territory of movie theater. The activity of this mobilized group went beyond the borders of a peaceful gathering on several occasions. Continual mobilization of the far-right groups is a result of their impunity during their previous violent rallies and the approach used by the state authorities. Attempts to hold Pride March in Tbilisi in summer last year, June-July 2019, failed because the authorities refused to guarantee the safety of participants in the face of threats of a violent counter-demonstration organized by a vigilante group. Despite the fact that homophobic groups formed the so-called civil guard unit equipped with wooden clubs to attack participants and were publicly inciting this violence, neither the leaders nor the members of the violent group have faced any charges, nor any investigation has been launched into this. With a view of adequately addressing general measures under the Identoba case, EMC, WISG, and ILGA-Europe submit the following recommendations. Together with civil society actors, to establish measures necessary to enable the safe and peaceful gatherings of LGBTI activists and take preventive measures to deter violence, hatred, and discriminatory attitudes and behavior. Georgian authorities should properly investigate violence and incitement of violence against LGBTI people directed from the ultra-conservative violent groups in Georgia. The authorities should establish a hate crime investigation unit within the law enforcement system in order to strengthen the investigation, prosecution, prevention of hate crimes based on sexual orientation, gender identity, and expression. and should work towards the elaboration of the effective preventive policies against hate crimes incidents by those cooperations with other state institutions. The authority should work towards elaboration of victim-based approach by strengthening its services, to include social workers, psychologists, shelter services, and others. Georgia should ensure the availability of high-quality, timely, and reliable disaggregated statistics in regard to hate crimes. Thank you for your attention.